Okay. Hi everybody. I'm just waiting for it to be 12 noon and I'll begin then. I can see there are a couple of people online and viewing this live session. I hope a few more join in. So okay, so about three or four people here. So yeah. So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Sharmila. I am an unschooling mom to 3 children. And apart from being a full-time mom, I also write and I have my own blog called thegreatkpok.blogspot.com, and I am into doodling. I doodle and do dot art. You can visit my page, Sharmila's World of Dots and Doodles. So a little about my children. My children are, I have 2 boys and 1 girl. My oldest is 15-year-old. He has been unschooling for the past 3 years. My second son is 12 and my daughter is 5. My older 2 did go to school for a while, whereas my son Siddharth, my older 2, in fact, my Siddharth and Aditya did go to school, and my daughter Tara has never been to a school. She has been to a playgroup and a Montessori for a while, but not in any formal schooling setup. So today I am going to be talking about reimagining parenting and how over the past 15 years I have evolved as a parent. I will conclude by giving a few tips around how I think parents should be with their children these days. So so let's begin. And I can see your all your comments too. So if you all have any queries, do post them and pin them so that I can get back to them once I finish saying things that I want to say. So now when I look at today's topic, reimagining parenting, I look at I would like everybody to go a little bit into our past. Whenever we think about children, I think when I was a child, I heard a lot of stories about Krishna and the Pandavas and the Kauravas and stories from Ramayana where children and the way children were taught and the way children were brought up. Children in those days believed that parents had to be respected, they had to be obeyed, and they had to be taken care of during their old age. And parents in turn believed that they had to nurture and take their children to a level where they were independent and able to take care of running the family as well as taking care of them in their old age. So that was the kind of parenting that I modeled when I saw on media or in books when I was a child. And then I had hands-on experience with being parented by my parents. At that point of time when I was a child, my parents took their role really seriously, and they felt that they were responsible for me. They had to look after me, they had to nurture me, and they had to take care of me to a point, and educate me to a point where I could start living independently, get married, and they believed that once I got married, their responsibility was over. My parents also, the kind of parenting that they did was very authoritarian. They believed that obedience meant respect, that if I obeyed them and listened to them and did everything that they asked me to, it meant that I was respecting them. They also believed in a lot of correction, and they believed that it was their responsibility to correct behavior that was not appreciated socially or not approved for socially. So correction was a major role that they played. They also looked at punishment, and punishment was the main way of disciplining us. So my parents believed that, laying consequences on me as a child would help me learn and help me decide what is right and wrong. Apart from that, there were a lot of moral stories from our scriptures, Vedas, stories of Krishna, Mahabharata, and Ramayana, and Gita, and all those were showered on me. Also, Ganpati, Lord Ganesha, and so on. By following festivals and rituals, they believed that they were kind of training me in-house to follow those religious practices in future as I grew independent. Never was I asked whether I believed in them, whether what I thought about them. I was not allowed to ask questions around many things, and it was all about, if this is the way things are done and you have to follow them. So this was how I was parented, and this was how I was brought up. And when my children were born, I realized that none of these things that I had seen with my parents really worked with my children, because probably me being me, I was used to giving them a lot of space and freedom, and I rejoiced in their discoveries and the way they looked at life and they found life, So when my oldest son was a baby, I simply loved the way he put forth things that he wanted to do, what he wanted to eat, when he wanted to sleep, what clothes he wanted to wear, what books he wanted to read, what games he wanted to play. Everywhere I realized that he wanted his say in it, and he didn't want to do things that I decided for him. So that was one of my biggest lessons. And when I reflected back on my childhood, I realized that I so craved for that. I craved for the fact that I wanted my parents to understand and sometimes ask me, is this what you want to do? Is this the game that you want to play? However, there wasn't much choice given to us in those days. So this was the first lesson that I learned, and this was the first experience, something that I learned through experience, that children need to have choice. They need to know, and we as parents need to believe that they have the ability to decide for themselves as to when they are hungry, when they want to sleep, what they want to do, when they want to play, whom they want to play with whom they want to share their toys with, when they need a hug, children know what they want. And that was a lesson that I learned. I learned it much later because I kept feeling that I had to perform a responsibility, and I had to nurture my children and teach them the right and wrong, and they had to comply to whatever I said, because that's what my parents had taught me. My parents felt that I had to always listen to them. So initial days of my parenting, I also felt that the children had to listen to what I wanted to say, and what the way I organized the day, the way I organized the house, I just wanted them to follow. However, my children kept giving me different messages, and these I'm really happy, or I would say I thank myself that I kept my ears open, my eyes open, and all my senses open, and I saw the messages that they were trying to give me. So slowly, as I realized that my children had the ability to decide for themselves, there was one area where I felt that it's schooling. Schooling is a non-negotiable. Everybody goes to school, and without going to school, how are you going to learn? However, constantly my children kept giving me this message that we don't need school to learn. We learn a lot more at home doing things the way we want to. And they were demonstrating that day in and day out. Like my oldest would, whenever he got engaged in something that he was interested in, it could be mountains, it could be rivers, it could be dinosaurs, it could be Spider-Man, it could be superheroes, snails, snakes, he would really go into the depths of it. And those things gave me cues in terms of what I need to do with my children. And then I would buy books or go to the library and get books related to the topics they were interested in. Then we would watch videos. While my children were growing up, internet was a new thing. The Wi-Fi had just come into our lives. So we started enjoying this whole process of learning, and I also realized that they're learning a lot more at home, being by themselves, than in schools. However, my conditioning, I still felt that no, I cannot pull them out of school, and I cannot do something which is not accepted by society. So it was only when I started unschooling, and when I realized that enough was enough. And I had also tried I had been a teacher. I had been a teacher for about 8 years. And I could see that, children didn't like shifting from one period to another. You're just getting involved in a subject, and then the bell rings and you are told that now you switch over and start doing something else. That I felt was so unfair on children. The teachers decided when the child takes a toilet break. The teacher decides, or the schedule decides when a child should be hungry. So even if I'm hungry before the bell rings for snack break, I cannot eat because I'm sitting in a class and I have to do what everybody is doing. Many a times I'm not interested in what is being taught. My mind is somewhere else because I have so many other things going on in my mind. But nobody really cared. No, not the teachers, because teachers were pressurized to complete a curriculum, complete a syllabus. If they had a noisy class, there would be a supervisor coming in and saying that, oh, your class is making too much noise, can you make your children keep quiet? So I could see that schools were creating a lot of damage, and my children were voicing it. They were voicing it through their verbal expressions, non-verbal cues. There were days when in the morning they would get up and say, oh, I don't want to go to school. And I would be like, no, you have to. And then I would rush them and get them ready and push them out of the house. And, and these experiences were stressful. They were stressful to me as a parent and to my children. And my children were confused because they didn't know how to relate to me. They, I think, in depth felt that their mom and their dad are people who love them, but what they were experiencing was far away from love. They was experiencing a person with, who was with this stick in her hand, trying to tell them that do this, do that, don't do this, don't do that. And that's how life had become. And when we started unschooling, we realized that, the world can be really different. It can be beautiful. And there is time for us to change. We are not late. We can start now. And so now I come to talking about what is this parenting that we are talking about today. So today, for the past 3 years, we have been working a lot on ourselves, me and my husband. We both are working on ourselves, and we are unlearning many preconceived notions about parenting. We are trying to internalize new behavior. We are putting in a lot of efforts to do that. And one of the most important beliefs that we have grown to understand and accept as our belief is that connection with your child is more important than correcting them. So to understand things from the child's point of view. So if a child leaves his plate on the table after having lunch and doesn't pick it up and is engrossed in something else, it's instead of shouting at the child and saying, oh, you're so indisciplined, you're so not doing your job well, you can't even pick up your plate and put it in the sink, you try and understand things from what the child is going through. Maybe the child at that point of time did not even think about that plate and was so engrossed in his game. And then instead of blah-blahing about, why did you do this, you're not, and labeling the child as this behavior is bad, you are bad, it would be just simple if I would have just reminded, oh, can you come here and just pick up this plate and put it in the sink? Because I think you've finished with your lunch, or you've finished with your dinner, or you've finished with your snack. So this is one important belief, that connection is more important than correction. And when you connect with the child, you understand things from the child's point of view. You empathize with the child, and you are able to look at the world through your child's eyes. And it's beautiful. Their world is so beautiful. The second aspect I learned was about freedom. Nobody likes being told what to do, even we adults. No, I don't like anybody telling me that, no, this is not what you should do, you have to behave in this way. I prefer it when people reason things out with me. And that's the same with children. They also don't like being told that you have to wear this t-shirt only, or you have to eat this meal only, or you can use the toilet at this time only. They also want to understand their own body, their own needs, and administer this freedom. They want this freedom and this autonomy to decide for themselves what they want to do and what they don't want to do. And believe me, it works wonders once you start believing in your child's freedom. Because with freedom also comes responsibility, and once the child experiences this freedom, the child starts taking responsibility on their own. So let me give you an example over here. So days when we were schooling our children, where I would control my children, their rooms would be untidy, toys would be fallen around everywhere, and I had to constantly tell them, pick up your mess, clean up your rooms, do this, do that. And once, now that we have started unschooling, and because they know they have the choice, they themselves take the initiative to keep their stuff clean, their place clean, the place where they sit, the place where they do things, they take that initiative. There might be days when, they leave it, but when you discuss it with them and say that, oh, that toy, I stepped on it, they take ownership and say that, oh, I'm so sorry, I'll go and pick it up, and they go and pick it up immediately. So that's the change that I saw once we started unschooling, and once we looked at parenting in a different light. Similarly, my children started cooking. They started fixing meals for themselves. They started choosing healthier options. So now they will pick up an apple to eat very easily, because they eat it when they are hungry, not when I tell them you need to eat them. So they pick up an apple or a banana or a fruit very easily, because they know that's what their body wants at that point of time. So I have seen this transformation with my children. Then the next part, that I feel is very important, is about intrinsic motivation. So often we parents use rewards, punishments, bribes, threats to get our children to comply. However, once a child is intrinsically motivated to do something, then you don't need all these things. You don't need to give them a bribe to behave in front of guests, or you don't need to threaten them for not doing something, or cut out on their TV time, or cut out on their play time for bad behavior. They do, they take that responsibility on themselves, and since they are intrinsically motivated to do things that they want to, they really get engrossed and engaged in it. So to give you an example, over here a few weeks ago, my second son was wanted to do a video shoot of a game that he plays on the computer with his friends. He wanted to start his YouTube channel, and he wanted to video shoot at a particular angle. Now, knowing that, see, the easy way would have been to, crib and fight with your parents and tell them, you have to buy me this on Amazon and you have to get this for me. But no, he got thinking. He felt this was his need, and he built a stand. He built a stand using cardboard and all the available material at home. He figured out how to place his phone so that he could shoot. And he did it because he wanted to do it. It came from inside him. And that is intrinsic motivation. That guides them and drives them to do things and achieve things. So that's a change. So now that we have stopped using carrots, and they call it the carrot or the stick in the psychology language. Now that we have stopped using all that, and we have separated awards, rewards, and getting new things from behavior, we are seeing a major change in our children. The next aspect that I would like to talk about is facing natural consequences. So often parents bring in artificial consequences on bad behavior, or on behavior that is not acceptable or not appropriate. So, for example, if my, while I was schooling my child, if my child didn't brush his teeth, I would tell my child that if you don't brush your teeth, I'm not going to give you your milk. You better go and brush your teeth if you want to have milk. And then you know what my children would do? They would go and stand in the bathroom for a minute. They would probably splash some water around them and come and say, oh, we have brushed. Now give us our milk. But have they really brushed their teeth? No. So now, when we started relying on natural consequences, we informed them, and we had a conversation about brushing and importance of brushing, and said that you're an intelligent being, you can decide, we are not going to levy any consequence on it. And they faced a natural consequence. My daughter had a cavity, and a bad cavity, and we had to take her to the dentist, which we did. And so, these are natural consequences that children face. And it doesn't mean that, parents' responsibility is to keep children from facing any of these consequences. Sometimes facing such consequences are good for them, because they realize what to do and what not to do, and then the future decisions are based on their past experiences, not on the basis of fear of their mom for levying artificial consequences of denial of something or reward of something. So that is something that I learned, and that I feel is an important aspect of parenting. Next is, I think, believing that the whole family is a team, you know, and it's not as though that the parents are somewhere on, the heads or the apex body who takes decisions for everybody, and the children are simply nothing, and they don't have a say in anything. But once you start believing that they are a team, and we all are a team, things become different. Then you involve them in decisions, you involve them in talking about your challenges, in sharing triumphs and in sharing joys. You involve them in everything, and that makes a difference. To give an example over here, there was a time, when the lockdown started, and this was about 2-3 months ago, and I was really upset. I was upset that I had to stay in the house, and everything was getting to me, the housework and non-ability to move out of the house and so on. And I got a little moody and a little cranky. And I expressed by lashing out at my children once or twice, and lashing out in general, being irritable was my mood. Nobody said anything. The following day, my daughter came and asked me, "Hey, what happened? Mama, you're so angry." She's just 6 years, not even 6 years old. And I told her, Tara, sometimes when you are upset about something, you just don't know how to think, and you don't know what to think, and you express it in a way that sometimes is not acceptable, but we all accept it as being your parents. I said, I went through something like that. And she looked at me and she said, "Oh, you need a hug." And she gave me a hug. And I felt so much better because I did not hide. I did not make excuses for my behavior. I just shared things honestly and openly with her. And she understood. She realized that Mama is also a human being, and she also has emotions just the way I have. And she also got another message that all emotions are real, that she could also face anger, she could also face irritation, she could face disappointment, sadness. She could face all these emotions. And by doing that, we also realized together as a family that we all have to learn ways of expressing our emotions in a way that are not harmful to ourselves as well as to others. And I think that was a key learning that we all had as a family, because we opened up and we shared that these are all normal things to happen to everybody. So yes, believing and trusting my children, looking at them as my partners. We are part of a team. We are part of a family, and we are together in all the ups and downs. Just believing in that and opening up to your children makes you so close to them. However, if you put yourself on some pedestal saying that, "Oh, I have to create an image that I only do good and I only behave well, and these are things that I cannot do with my children, I cannot expose my children to," they get a skewed up understanding about the world. And this is what I don't want, because tomorrow when they become independent, when they are independent right now, but when they probably move out of our household or fly the nest, these are things where they'll be taking decisions every day about. They'll have to decide on how they behave, what they do, how they talk, how they respond every single day, or probably every single moment. And these experiences and this way of parenting helps them do that. They will not end up being confused, they will not end up being stressed, or they will not feel that they have to put on an image in front of others. They will want to be their true selves. So as a parent, I become a model for them. And if I do things that they believe in and we all believe in together, then they would learn those things, and that becomes very crucial. In fact, we all learn together. It's not only about they learning those things, I also learn along the way. So family as a team and children being equal participants in the team is very important for us. Lastly, I think I've shared a lot, and I would like to conclude by saying that, what this new age parenting or this reimagined parenting role is about less conditional and more conscious. So we as parents are trying to be as unconditional as possible with our children. We are trying our level best to work on teamwork, on developing our family as a team. We look at natural consequences instead of using rewards, punishments, threats, and carrots and sticks. And we believe that freedom and autonomy is the most important aspect of any person's life, any individual's life. And so with this, I end. There are a couple of books that really had a huge impact on me. One is Unconditional Parenting by Alfie Kohn and Shefali Sabri's Conscious Parenting. These two books I would recommend everybody to read. And apart from that, I think my current favorite book is The Tao of Pooh. Through the language of Pooh and through stories of Pooh, you get to know a lot about life, about respect, about accepting everybody in your life and living in the moment. So yes, with that, now I'm willing to take questions. I've spoken for 32 minutes. Wow. So if there are any questions, I'm going to just look through the comments and see if there are any questions. I can see Smriti has posted the links to my blog as well as my doodle art, doodle dot and doodle worlds. Thank you, Smriti. I wish I could show the book. I don't have the book right now. Maybe I could post a link later on. But the name is, I'm typing out the name, the Conscious Parenting by Alfie Kohn. And Alfie Kohn has also written another book called Punished by Rewards, which also is an interesting book which shows how positive reinforcement can also be detrimental to a child, because it actually doesn't work in the long run, because these are all external motivating factors where children learn to use ask for external motivation or a reward or something in return for doing something for the family. And this happened with me and my children. Once when I'd asked my child to complete his homework, he said, okay, are you going to give me chocolates after I complete my homework? So it was all about not doing homework because he didn't believe in homework at that time. Now I don't believe in schooling itself, so it's different. About the community, so please share more about community support for new parents getting into unschooling. So unschooling and homeschooling is a large spectrum, and there are many parents all over the country who are homeschooling or unschooling their children. And there are many forums and many groups where you can become part of these, and there are listening circles, there are discussion groups, there are meets like Swashikshan annual meet happens once a year, LSUC happens once a year, and those are there. Apart from that, okay, there's a question which says I need to discuss my initiatives and online discussions I host. Okay. So there was a time when I used to do, I was part of a listening circle called the Unschool Way, where we would meet once a week to talk about, it was just a listening circle to share experiences around how we parented our children, or simple, the challenges that we faced and how we tried to work through them. Right now, I don't do much of group work. I do a lot of individual work, because I have realized that each family is different and family is at a different stage of understanding things, and that's where I'm open to people connecting with me, and then we have a personal chat on things. I am also part of a few homeschooling groups on Facebook. Homeschooling India is one of them. This group, so Homeschooling India group, I've just decided that I'm going to be an admin to this group, and yeah, so our whole idea behind this group, the whole idea behind me becoming part of this group was there were too many people who had started requesting to join the group. So there are many people who are exploring homeschooling or unschooling at this stage, especially the COVID situation has brought that up. And there was a lot of infiltration of business houses who were trying to sell curriculums, saying that, homeschooling or unschooling is easy. You take the child out of the school, you buy our curriculum and you start teaching them. But that's not what homeschooling is. Homeschooling is way different than just starting a school at home and teaching the parent or the mom becoming the teacher for the child. It's a lot different. There is a lot of reflection and unlearning that a parent needs to go through. So there's another question: share about common conflicts and confusions of new parents in alternate learning sphere. So I think the biggest conflict that parents are facing these days is non-compliance of children, and children in openly expressing that they don't want to do what their parents expect them to. And that is the main reason why most homeschooling parents have also started reaching out to me, because they did feel that it was easy, take your child out of school and start teaching them. But then that's where the child started sharing that, no, I don't want to learn this, I want to do something else. And they started expressing this through various ways, not directly as I'm saying, but by making excuses like I want to go to the toilet, or getting distracted, or not paying attention and all that. So one of the most, I think right now, the biggest concern of parents is how to get children to comply to whatever they are asking them to do. Okay. How homeschooling is possible for those students who don't have facilities? Okay, this is a question that's come up. I would like you to elaborate a little more on who are these children without facilities. Are you talking about street children? Okay, so you're talking about mainly the underprivileged, or the ones who do not have access to resources such as the internet and so on. That's a great question. I think, somewhere the answer to this question lies in what we believe around learning. We have, the whole popular belief is that only if people come up to the standards of the so-called affluent classes, only then learning is taking place. Do you think that children who come from underprivileged backgrounds don't learn, don't have experiences, don't have conversations and discussions with their parents? I think the only thing that they lack is that confidence, because they have been made to feel that they are lesser and they are not well equipped, and they do not have, so they are the not haves in the world, because they don't have things that probably somebody in the middle class or the upper middle class does. But I can share examples of my own house help who has 4 daughters, and she's a self-taught. She has put together a lot of things to learn for herself and her daughters, and they're doing it. Her daughters do go to school because she feels that for her level to grow up, they need a school, but there is so much that she teaches them at home, and they also self-learn at home. One is she herself got empowered. So there is a lot of hope. I think that it's right time for us to believe that what we know is not knowledge, and they also are individuals who have a lot of knowledge. I learned a lot about home therapies and home remedies from my house help. Where did she have all that knowledge? I think most of us don't believe that people from the underprivileged class have the knowledge, and that's where the problem lies. And we want them to fit into the world that we have created, the norms that we have created. I think that's where the problem lies. Can we do homeschooling and schooling together? Wow. Yeah. I don't know about homeschooling and schooling. Unschooling is an attitude. So I know of parents who send their children to school because they have no options, because probably that's the solution that they have chosen, because both the parents work, there's nobody else to take care of the child. But once the child is at home, and they completely believe in the child's choices. They do not force the child to comply and become competitive and do things for external reasons. And they believe that a child should do things because that is what they want. They want that experience. So in that sense, there are parents who do send their children to school, but yet unschool. Okay. Parameter and in dignifying social diversity, I think schooling is necessary for. Okay, so Jalpa is saying that she feels that schooling is necessary for remote area or poor family student. I think it's an individual choice. Like my house help has decided she definitely wants schooling for her children. I think it is time for us people to rethink about this line. Why is it necessary for them to adapt to certain norms about knowledge that another class has put up? Can't they live a life of dignity, a life of respect, a life of just and fair wages, without having to do so? So in fact, just think about it. A plumber's son or a plumber, we feel that they are uneducated, but they have all the knowledge about plumbing. Do we respect them for that? Or a carpenter's child knows, or a carpenter for that matter, knows everything about carpentry. They know so much more than what I or you know. Do we respect them for that? Do we have that dignity of labor in us? Or do we believe that only working in the IT sector or becoming engineers and doctors is the only way to progress? That is something that, it's time for all of us to rethink about. Okay, so is homeschooling useful for all children? Because all children have different IQ levels. I think it is, homeschooling should be a choice. There are different options available. Now children have options from schooling, online schooling, homeschooling, unschooling. I think it's a choice that the family as a team should make together. So there are these different options. You select what is best for you. Yeah. Okay, are there any more questions? Have I missed anything? So what I would like to emphasize on is this choice and not feeling forced to do something. So I know so many children who do well in school and they love school and they like it. They like that kind of an atmosphere. Pulling these children out of school because a parent has attended a workshop and has felt that, this is the new way of doing things, I think is completely wrong. It is something that a child, and if you value the child as an individual being, the child's decision, the child's opinion in that choice matters. Yeah. Question to social economic structure and practice. Okay. So I have tried to understand, I have tried to answer the question about social and economic structure and practice. At this point, all I say is that it is time for us to relook at our notions about the underprivileged and our belief that they are not, they don't know, and start believing that they too have their experience and hence they also know about a lot of things. Once we start believing in that, once we start respecting that, and on the other hand, once we start having a fair and just world where they get their due wages, which are decent enough for them to run their family and their household, I think things will work. So yeah, that's all that I can say, but that's a long way off, and it's something that needs to begin. It needs to begin. I do it with the people whom I come in contact with. I always believe that I should pay them fair wages. I should not exploit them, and believe that they also have capacity and ability to teach me many different things, there are many different skills. So once that mutual respect comes, they also feel empowered to believe that they also have the ability to do a lot of things with their children. Yeah. So thank you. I think if my attempt to answering all questions is done, I would like to say thank you. Thank you to the Nityanootan group to give me this opportunity, and Smriti and Siddharth for encouraging me to do this session. Thank you, Ram Mohan Rai ji. This is a wonderful initiative, and I'm hoping that a lot more people get empowered and get impacted by all the talks that have been happening since 3rd of July. So thank you very much, and with this I think I'm going to end the video. Yeah. Okay. Thank you everybody. I'm going to just type in a thank you and I'm going to end my live video.